Hello and welcome to another episode of Earth911's Sustainability in Your Ear. This is the podcast conversation about accelerating the transition to a sustainable carbon neutral society. Thanks for joining. I'm your host, Mitch Ratcliffe. Making circular living easy for consumers is the key to achieving our sustainability goals as a society. The take, make, waste linear economy has excelled at making disposal of products and packaging easy, but only if you consider the landfill an environmentally responsible solution. Now, we need to make collecting and reusing items as convenient as tossing things in the trash after one use. My guest today is James Wilson. He's the founder of Hickory Corners, Michigan-based ReUser, which is a company working to reduce the volume of food service and takeout packaging waste with reusable containers for college and corporate cafeterias. The program combines convenient drop-off bins placed on campuses with a mobile app that helps diners track, return takeout containers, and understand the impact of their reuse habits. As we recently discussed with Alan Adamson, author of Seeing the How, ReUser focused on one of the necessary evils in an existing food service process to make returning and reusing takeout packaging convenient. The ReUser service is currently available at Wesleyan, Trinity, and Cornerstone universities, where the cafeterias rent takeout plastic dining containers, which ReUser collects, cleans, and returns for use serving another meal. Students use a mobile app to check out a takeout container, and then when they're done with their meal, scan a QR code on the container before dropping it off, and that confirms it's been returned. ReUser is planning to add game elements to the mobile app to encourage diners to participate. This kind of collection, cleaning, and reuse service could be attached to many linear customer experiences, such as the collection of e-commerce boxes from homes and offices, the recovery of hard-to-recycle packaging, and, of course, in the fast food and quick service restaurants industries. There are many steps to master in any service experience, and ReUser has an intriguing example of how local circular services could grow up. So let's dive into the ReUser process and see what we can learn. You can learn more about ReUser at reuser.app. ReUser is all one word, no space, no dash, reuser.app. Welcome to the show, James. How are you doing today?
I am doing quite well. Thank you for having me, Mitch.
Well, thank you. And ReUser is really interesting. We've been talking a lot lately on the show about how to start to build circular experiences in an ordinary customer service. And you have done this in a complex and very large scale way. Let me ask before we get into ReUser. You were in the event planning space, planning parties and meetings and so forth. What did you learn from that industry about waste that motivated you to start ReUser?
So there is a lot of it actually came from the technology side of my learning. So I worked on the event ticketing technology space, and from that just really fell in love with the software development lifecycle and going from a problem that someone was facing to really think through with developers about how we could creatively work to solve those problems with features to enhance their experience interacting with the platform and provide a better experience overall. And from that, with working with event creators, got to be able to spend more time with them and learn more about their own processes with running events, getting to see the event floors with the different booths that they had, as well as being able to see all the massive amount of running around that was planned ahead of time. But from interacting with those events on site, got to see, was inspired by the work ethic that they had, but also saw like many of the problems they had, like logistically working to handle the waste that was coming in and out of those experiences. And while also at the time, once the pandemic hit, then looked around and what I just more broadly at myself and what I was interacting with in my own life outside of where in-person events were shut down during that time, to see the massive amount of takeout packaging waste that I was contributing to myself. And to think, then reflected and saw and reflected as to if there were any ways that it could be better, and thought back to my time as a student and remembered using reusable takeout containers for 5 years beforehand, and then started to explore how we could work to make more of these this takeout packaging be reusable in nature versus just thrown out.
So let's imagine we're at Wesleyan University, where you're a grad. How's the reuser process work? I'm in the cafeteria. I select my food. How do I get my food, and what do I do with that packaging?
Yeah. So let me, if it's okay, I'll back up on that just for a bit. So to talk about what reusing looked like previously before Reuser came in, and then what it now looks like with Wesleyan. So before we started working with them, Wesleyan had reusable takeout containers from like my freshman year back in 2013 there. But they, as a student, I would use it to, I would go to get my food. I had the option to still get a disposable, but I had to pay 50 cents for a disposable container or pay $5 and get a reusable takeout container. I could see that by using it more than 10 times, I was going to start saving myself money from not needing to repurchase that container again. But I would frequently forget to actually bring it back, which led to me needing to purchase another one. And then at the end of the year, I would have 4 or 5 of these containers out. They also had the option to bring back a container and exchange it for a keychain that you could then keep track of versus needing to just drop off the dirty one. But I would still forget that keychain just as easily as I would the actual physical container itself.
So you found a problem that existed in a previously existing reuse program and fixed it, because now you could get your money back, in so many words, as a student if you kept too many of these around your room.
Exactly. We just worked to digitize that wallet experience of like bringing back that container or keeping track of that keychain to make it easier for the individuals to reuse, while also enabling them to enabling other benefits that we can get into more about with software and collecting data on these containers.
So what happens when I'm at the cafeteria?
So when a Wesleyan student goes to the cafeteria, they first signed up, downloaded our app and signed up with their Wesleyan email. They have credits within their account that they can use to exchange for a new container. So that way, there's no cost to them upfront to participate in the program, and they can just scan a QR code on the pickup poster by the dining attendant, scan the container they're taking away, and just show the confirmation to the attendant to get their food and go on their way. So
that allows the student to begin to participate in this at no cost. How does it affect the costs of the cafeteria? Does it change? Does it save them money compared to using single use?
It does. The main way that it does save the money is as they continue to reuse that packaging. So there is reusable containers are more durable by nature and therefore also more expensive per container upfront to just purchase the container. However, because disposable ones are only being used one time, you're continually having to pay for that to repurchase that container, as well as having to pay for the disposal of that packaging, which comes out to roughly 5 cents per container for the disposal, in addition to many of these single-use ones already being 30 to 40 cents per container per purchase. Whereas with reusable packaging, although much of this can be more expensive at around like a $5 mark for a single container up front, as it continues to be reused, or if it can be used 100 times, that can really drop that purchase price down to less than a cent. But the real cost comes from like the per use of washing that container, which still is significantly less than the disposable options currently at around 14 to 15 cents per wash.
Now, ReUser does
mostly by. Sorry, can you repeat that?
ReUser does the cleaning too, then.
So we do not do the cleaning currently. We currently rest on top of existing services like an Aramark Sodexo that work at these locations that are already collecting and cleaning plates to enable them to more easily collect and clean these reusable takeout containers as well. So working to provide them the data and help better augment their programs to run these programs more efficiently.
So does that add a step for the Sodexo staff that's washing the dishes? They have to scan these as well to confirm that it was received?
So they do not need to scan these containers to confirm that they're received. This is we're building out a new function for them to be able to at the end of different periods be able to scan in different inventory to just double check like the counts that they have on site at different periods. But right now the student is scanning to pick up and also scanning to return their container, which marks the container as picked up or returned based on the location that they're doing that from.
So it also sounds like because you're piggybacking on these existing services that you don't have to worry about passing any local health reviews or otherwise. You're just a supplier and a tracker in so many words.
In so many words, yes. So we also work to make sure that the packaging that we do provide to our clients is food safe. We're ensuring that these and that they're able to meet the standards of going through dishwashers and high heat, and that it can be stored correctly as well. But that we're also directly partnering with manufacturers that have done that rigor already to ensure that anything that we pass on to our clients meets the standards that they need for their operations.
So obviously, takeout containers are evolving quickly these days. What are the typical containers made of, and how are you looking to try to reduce the impact of those over the full life cycle of their use?
It's a great question. So we're currently working with a couple different groups that are providing polypropylene-based reusable clamshell containers. And unfortunately for the visitors, they can see, but it essentially is currently the biggest use of these on these campuses right now is a 9-inch by 9-inch by 3-inch clamshell container that can hold an entire meal's worth of food that can then be run through a dishwasher in a single piece, just like a plate would be, to be washed and sanitized. However, there are other types of packaging as well, such as that are even our partners offer as well, that are like more side dishes that can go through those environments. There's ones without compartments to just better hold salads or other dishes, as well as now even there's a pizza slice one that I really like to see. But there's
makes sense.
We're starting with this polypropylene base because this is what's most accessible from a price point for many of these groups. We've also seen other groups in the reusable space start to offer stainless steel. I think that has many benefits from a longevity perspective. But unfortunately, from a cost point right now to access is very difficult for many while we're still working to prove out keeping that packaging in circulation to avoid needing to regularly replace with loss currently.
Now, because you're focused on the tracking of all this, and it's a complex and complicated process, because somebody might be dropping these off in various locations around the campus, not just at the food service centers. What did you find the most challenging element of designing this process to be? What did you really have to struggle to overcome?
So I think diving right into that that there is a strong point of the population that really wants to that just takes on to this very quickly, and then this is something easy for them to do. But there's also a very small subsection of the population that's more resistant to change and wants to still, as you talked about, to where these containers are being returned currently. We do have those return locations at the dining facilities themselves, because that's where the dining teams are most able to oversee the return of those containers directly, which has led to more reticence with those that aren't able to get back to those places as easily, as well as there's other factors that we're still continuing to explore with that as well, where there has been attempts to more game the system to return it in other areas, that we now work to adjust that our software and our system of operation as well, to ensure that, one, we're better understanding those uses, exploring how we can help capture more of that packaging back into the system itself, as well as incentivizing better behavior change so that folks aren't that reuse can be even easier, and that it's not just appealing to those that are most sustainability oriented, but also aligned with cost incentives, as well as those that just that want to do it because of the nature of the program itself, and how it can potentially drive more engagement from being fun versus just being something that you have to do.
Well, and when we last talked about this, you talked about the idea of introducing gamification, which also potentially creates other revenue streams that could offset the costs and potentially support the extension of the service to other pickup locations because somebody's paying for it and there's a branding opportunity there. Have you looked at potentially talking with a brand about sponsoring pickup on the college campus?
So we've not explored pickup with a brand at the college campuses right now. We're still working with the internal teams of the at those college campuses to enable better just pickup within those facilities themselves. But we're also starting to talk to municipalities as well about pickup and drop off, like within more city areas, to enable more interchange between those locations. And in those places, I think that is more susceptible for either another brand working to come in to provide that the highlight of the brand, of like covering the cost of that side of things, as well as enabling while we're in this current mold of the campus model, there's still other structures like sustainability groups that we can better leverage to ensure that that packaging that gets dropped off to a different location can still get returned to the main facility where it can be washed. It's just working to provide better transparency on the operation right now and ensure that we meet the standards that they need to implement at other places as well.
That's interesting. So you can kind of bootstrap this on a partially volunteer basis because other people care about the problem. So what kind of data does your system collect? How does it help the institution, for instance, track its CO2 avoided or ESG goals?
So right now, what it looks like when a student scans to pick up or return their container is we're collecting what poster and container that they're scanning to pick up or return, and so we can see where the student picked up or returned the container, when that behavior action occurred, and who took that container out, to ensure that if it's not returned after a certain period of time, we can send notifications to continue to remind and ensure that those containers are brought back, while also being able to see, like per location, what it looks like as to how many containers are currently getting picked up and dropped off on a regular basis, being able to visualize how much is currently out with their populace that still needs to be returned, and while also diving into in different cadences that they need to explore over time periods as to a week, a month, and now looking at for entire length of programs, how many containers are really being saved as they're continuing to be returned and then cleaned again.
So can you extrapolate from that, for instance, by comparing to the single-use alternatives that somebody might have picked, how much CO2 was avoided? And have you thought about even potentially turning that into a carbon credit that could also help offset the cost of the service?
That is absolutely what we're exploring. So that now that we have that data point there, we can look to measure how many containers are being saved. We can look at what's the tonnage of the waste being avoided by doing this operation. What's the amount of carbon that's being reduced from going into the atmosphere from engaging in this versus disposables, while also then looking to explore even like water usage and other things, as we can take that data point and compare it to existing studies that have been done on reuse to help better provide transparency to these enterprises about the impact of the packaging that they're having. And that's really where I see one of the biggest levers that one of the biggest value adds that the ReUser provides is working to extract that information for the organization where they didn't have a comparison point previously. So where their baseline was, help them explore where they can start with reusing, and continue to incentivize that the growth of their positive environmental impact by continuing to reuse.
And now back to our conversation with James Wilson. He's the founder of ReUser, which tracks the cleaning and distribution of reusable cafeteria and takeout packaging. So, James, so as you were saying just before we took the break, you help organizations baseline their potential savings and understand and track the decreasing environmental impact of their food packaging. There's a lot of ins and outs to the problem of all of that inventory in the first place. So how do you deal with breakage when containers get lost? Who covers the cost of breakage? Is it ReUser is taking that risk, or is it the food service customer?
So it's currently the food service customer and the institution that is purchasing the packaging from us to start this program, or has their existing packaging that they need to replace with us. So we're still providing labeling for each of these containers to add them into our system. So as there's wear with the labeling and that needs to be replaced, that's covered within our cost of subscription to access our services. However, if a container itself just needs to replace because it goes bad, then that's covered by the institution themselves. We're exploring that in the future to cover that as part of our operation. We're just still working to gather more data to better understand what the real replacement rate is like, to ensure that we can effectively price that in and provide value to both our customers and whenever we do look to launch that.
So what I'm hearing too is that the food service provider could take different approaches to how they cover that cost. They could penalize somebody who doesn't bring it back, or they could go ahead and forgive it. There's a lot of range of brand experience to develop in that. That's really intriguing.
Certainly, and that's something that we're trying to dive in more to as well, to unlock the true value for our clients with that. Right now, it has been more custom as to where they want to provide the pricing, where do they want to charge the customers with it. We hope to be able to implement a system that works more broadly across our clients, that to enable that we're not penalizing people for participating in reuse, but really working to keep it accessible, just for similar to disposable packaging. That we think by integrating with the existing financial stacks of being able to have student card payments or eventually credit card payments itself, like directly within our solution, that we can enable avoiding the cost of paying to actually use the packaging itself, but instead be able to charge for the replacement of the container once we verify that packaging really is lost.
So what kind of inventory does the cafeteria need to have on hand in order to cover the demand? Is it 100%, 120%, 90% because the demand is less than 100%?
So generally we advise of roughly 1.5 to 2 to 1 reusable packaging per individual that needs a container. Okay. Just generally from what we've seen so far, that there's people forget to bring it back the first time, or might just need to get 2 when they go to get food when they're ordering for other people. It's generally best to have more of an abundance of inventory than lack the inventory when it's needed. That being said, for each of the clients that we start off with, they allow 1 free container to start to be able to check out and return, so that they can better manage their inventory flows. We just want to ensure as well for them that they have the inventory that they need whenever they need it.
Well, and that first free one is the giveaway that gets people engaged, and that's the critical first step in this entire process. But you also have talked about gamifying the return experience. What kind of incentives, and are those social and monetary, do you envision adding to the service in order to get people really almost competing to be more sustainable?
So ideally, we want to do both. So we hope that this can be both social and monetary incentives that we can layer on top of this. That we're already collecting that data to see how many times someone is reusing. But we want to do a better job at showcasing that back to the individuals that participate in our program, to be able to see how they compare, how their reuse compares with their friends, but also looking at from an institution basis or area, like how their reuse compares to in a leaderboard type fashion, how one school's reuse compares to another, or and from a monetary basis, where we can see how many times they reuse before when they then need to replace the container, that as they hit different milestones of continuing to bring that packaging back, work towards incentivizing them, whether that be from a discount at the dining hall, from the savings that they're working to unlock that program by continuing to make sure that that packaging ends back up with them, or bringing in other partners to actually highlight and reward that behavior of continuing to return that packaging from potential collaborations as well.
So I used to work on the Microsoft campus, and there were many cafeterias and more than 100 buildings. But there was a phenomenon. I think people ate as they were walking back to their office, because there was concentric circles of more and more waste the further you got from each cafeteria before you got to one of the office buildings. Have you thought about how to scale up to serve corporate campuses? Could you have a collection program, somebody who was going around and picking that material up wherever it was dropped?
I think that's totally possible. I think corporate campuses already align with one of the groups that we want to start supporting already, and we believe we can with our current technology. But it's working to better connect with more of these groups to understand if there are any key differences that they have, whether that be their payment flow from how they how individuals pay for their food on site versus universities, to where that food is most frequently, where individuals are most frequently returning plates or other things, to ensure that there are best return locations for that packaging as well, to continue to be reused again. But an organization like Microsoft is now under increasing pressure externally with ESG reporting and SEC filings, as well as new European standards, to have to really hone in on what is their packaging waste impact, what are the emissions that they're currently generating, and what are they doing to ensure that those are offset and mitigated moving forward.
Can you imagine bringing ReUser to a chain restaurant? Would this work, for instance, in a quick service restaurant where people sat down at scale? And in a takeout context, do you think maybe in 10 years we might have the Uber for dirty takeout containers?
I think that we're actually already seeing that in different locations. So if you look at New York City, for example, there's an awesome startup there called Deliver Zero that's working to provide delivery for food in reusable takeout containers, and in partnership with many of the restaurants in the city. And they providing an experience to then collect and return that packaging as an intermediary between those groups. In general, this is something that ReUser totally thinks that we can get to down the road as well, to help from these central hubs of these campuses and these places within these communities, to enable better free flow and interchange of the packaging that's being returned, to ensure that it gets back to the location that it was originally used at, and can be used and still be used in those same locations again. The main thing that prevents ReUser from currently doing that at the location is from just being software focused right now. Not everybody's going back to that same quick serve location again and again right now. So there needs to be more direct integration with the logistics offerings in those areas, to ensure that if it's, whether partnering with an Amazon who's already doing pickups or providing drop-offs of shipments to people on a regular basis, that whether those people could then facilitate the return of reusable packaging to central hubs as they then go back with empty trucks, or other groups like Uber and DoorDash doing something similar. I think this is ripe to be explored, and or something that certainly that we're excited to to dive into once we can, as we continue to build our software to support reuse in more spaces.
So where is ReUser as a company today? Are you self-funded? Are you raising funds? And what are your milestones for growth over the next years?
So we are currently, we have raised just over 100K so far from joining the Forum Accelerator, backed by Forum Ventures, which is a B2B software as a service focused fund. We're thrilled to work with their team of operators from key leaders that worked at Shopify and Hootsuite to scale those teams, and are now working to raise a little bit more funding to scale out our team and take to hit the milestones that we need to raise a seed at a future point, but really build out the product to really satisfy the needs of our clients and continue to go well beyond that as well. So what we're looking to do now is take this initial app that we had and not only make that process easier and work to gamify that, but also provide a client app experience to enable the enterprise teams, such as the dining teams and those administrators, to be able to see their direct, visualize their impact in real time, to be able to better manage their inventories across their locations, extract reports as they need, and ensure that packaging is best able to be reused at those sites.
Are you going to be launching in your universities in the fall when school starts again?
We are planning to. Unfortunately, we're still wrapping up some of those final details of those, so I don't have any names to share with you right now. But I will look forward to sharing many of those with you shortly, Mitch.
Well, we look forward to learning more about this. This is fascinating. James, how can folks first follow along with what you're doing and potentially reach out and say, I want this for my institution?
Absolutely. So always happy to, feel free to take my email at james@reuser.app. You can also follow ReUser's journey on social media at ReUser Official on both Instagram and Twitter. And then always feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn as well.
Well, thank you so much for telling us about how ReUser is working. I wish you the best of luck. I hope this really takes off.
Thank you so much, Mitch. No, I'm greatly thankful for the work that you're working to do to help advance the circular economy, and think that together we can really work towards moving the planet from these systems of waste to really managing these materials and understanding that all of this has value that can be used again.
There's the key. It is value. We have simply been throwing value away, and it's time to take the next step. So onward and upward. Thank you.
Thank you.
We've been speaking with James Wilson. He's the founder of ReUser, a tracking platform for reusable cafeteria and takeout packaging. And you can learn more about ReUser at reuser.app. ReUser is all one word, no space, no dash, reuser.app. And again, his email address is james@reuser.app. Circular processes have two immediate benefits. First, they reduce the amount of waste generated. And second, they can free up monies once spent on single-use options to support collection programs. I'm reminded during this conversation with James of an interview with Free Water founder Josh Clifford from a couple of years ago. Josh uses advertising to support the distribution of free canned and cartoned packaged water. It's just a matter of looking at the old take, make, waste strategy from a different angle. And then, of course, making sure you collect the materials at the end of its useful life and recycle it for the next use. Companies and institutions like universities are going to be expected to report more and more details about their environmental impact over the next several decades. James's focus on technology and tracking today makes sense. Tracking and baselining environmental improvements delivers the data that motivates more participation and creates less waste as linear models migrate to circular reuse experiences that can be delivered to customers as part of almost any process, from delivering food to delivering e-commerce packaging. But once you're tracking this information, the next step is to turn collection into a game and provide countable physical impressions for a brand. Think of a reusable cup that has an iced tea brand logo on it as a form of advertising, like Free Water. And then you have to convert all that avoided carbon emissions into credits that might pay for even more engaging collection experiences, which become eminently doable. And all of a sudden, we're rethinking the circular economy, where we're rethinking the economy in circular terms. We just have to take the steps to explore customer experiences to discover new circular values that can be integrated into them. Would you take a moment to share this podcast or any of the more than 400 interviews that we produced on sustainability in your ear? Taking a moment to write a review on your favorite podcast platform will help your neighbors find us. You folks are the amplifiers that spread more ideas so we can create less waste. Please tell your friends, family, and coworkers they can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Audible, or any of the other fine purveyors of podcast goodness they prefer. Thank you so much for your support. I'm Mitch Ratcliffe. This is Earth911, and we will be back with another innovator interview soon. In the meantime, folks, take care of yourself, take care of one another, and let's all take care of this beautiful planet of ours. Have a green day.